The big focus of the World Economic Forum this year in Davos, Switzerland, has been about the environment, about sustainable development, about climate change. One of the companies in India which has been working very, very closely with that is Renew Power. Sumant Sinha with us. You are the largest renewable energy company in India at this stage. It's a particularly significant WEF for you, right? Given the fact that you have worked so hard at achieving what you have in the country.
You know, I think that the whole dialogue and conversation around climate change has been pretty, I would say, active for the last several years. I think this year again, the World Economic Forum is trying to use their good offices or their bully pulpit, as it were, to try to take the conversation about climate change forward. They've got some pretty interesting people here. I mean, Greta Thunberg was here as well, as you know. And I think the whole purpose is to highlight to all the people assembled here that this is an important issue. And keep in mind one very important thing, that there are lots of large corporates here, and I think they are the ones that have to really act significantly to address this whole issue. I think countries, as much as you would like and as much as the Paris Climate Accord promised a lot, unfortunately are not delivering what they need to. So I think civil society, large corporates, small corporates, all have to step up to really make this conversation, turn this conversation into actual reality on the ground. I think that's really where the big delta now lies.
You know, in terms of what you are doing in renewable energy, whether it's solar energy or whether it's windmills, how has that had a sizable impact on India's power generation?
It's becoming sizable now. Today, renewable energy accounts for about 10% of India's total power generation, and that has happened in a very short period of time, literally in the last 5 to 7 years. Today, our company generates 1% of India's total electricity production, and through doing it through clean sources, we help mitigate 0.5% of India's total carbon emissions. And that's what our company is doing, right? So if we add up the whole sector, and if you look at the growth that is there in the sector in the near term going forward, I think renewable energy will play a very, very significant role in curbing India's carbon emissions and in meeting our Paris commitments on reducing the carbon intensity of our GDP down by 30-35%.
And India's done well as far as our international mandates are, statements are, as far as renewable energy is concerned. So that's one positive that we have, isn't it? We are actually meeting our targets.
No, look, I think this government has been very proactive. I think we could have taken the view that, look, this problem is not caused by us. Why should we have to be the ones finding the solution? We have our own development path to follow, and we should not be curbed in any way. But I think this government 5-6 years ago, when renewables are still more expensive than thermal, took a very, very positive decision of saying, look, we are going to do our bit. Why? Because India does have a vulnerable population. You know, we will be particularly hard hit due to climate change issues. And therefore, we have to do whatever we can to, in fact, propel other nations also down the right path on climate issues. Now, renewable energy has become so much cheaper because of technology improvements than any other form of energy. So going down the right path has become a lot easier now. And I think I must commend the Indian government for having taken this view several years ago.
Yep. If you look at the macro picture about India and the state of the economy, 4.8% is what the IMF has now said, and the bulk of the globe's growth has been affected adversely by India. So, I mean, it's a question I've been asking others as well. Is the India story essentially bust at this stage?
No, I think that's a very pessimistic reading of the situation. I think the reality is that through a series of policy missteps, global slowdown, and various other matters, India's economic growth has fallen, as we all know, from 8%, 8.2% down over the last 6 quarters to 4.8%, 4.5%. I think, you know, my sense is that we're kind of close to the bottom now. I think the signs are that we will start now growing slowly. But I think there are some fundamental systemic issues that need to be dealt with by the government. I think the financial sector is still broken, and if that sector is not revived, we will not have faster economic growth. So I think that is one sector that has to be addressed. I think on the tax front, the government has done stuff, particularly on the corporate side, but there's still a lot that can be done vis-a-vis capital markets, vis-a-vis making investments easier, dividend distribution tax. So there's a lot of easing up that they can still do just on capital flows. Similarly, across every single sector, if you look at it, there are lots of things that need to be done. The government is doing them, it's doing them slowly, it's, you know, in some sectors it's faster, some it's less fast. I think those are issues that all need to be addressed. I think if that happens, there's no reason why our growth should not pick up back up to 7 to 8% in the very near term.
But how? But by when? Because 2021 we're going to go above, just a little above 6% is what the IMF says.
Yeah. Look, I think the fact is with the global economic growth at about 2.5 to 3%, maybe 6% is not so bad. I agree with you that we're all used to 8%. The Indian economy, the Indian population, given where our rate of development is right now, or our level of development is, we need to grow as fast as we can. There is no question.
But let's look at the real story on the ground. NBFC is faltering. The infrastructure sector desperately needs money. Where is that money going to come from? Unemployment numbers, some say they're exaggerated, others say that they're humongous at this stage. The auto sector in a definitive slowdown at this stage. We know as a fact that there are lakhs of people who've lost their jobs. Consumption is low. So each of these parameters is low at this stage. So given this scenario, why do you still feel optimistic?
I'm not saying that I feel optimistic.
You don't.
What I'm saying is...
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
fair enough.
But are you not optimistic?
No, let me say this. I don't think that economic growth is going to slow down anymore from where we are. Growth is going to recover, but very slowly. As an Indian, I wish that it would recover faster. But for all the reasons that you mentioned, and I alluded to some of them as well, right? The reality is that growth will recover slowly. And that's obviously painful for me as an Indian. I would like growth to be faster. As a business person, I would like power demand to surge in line with growing GDP growth as well. But I think we have to accept the fact that we are in a certain environment. And I think as long as we can start reversing the tide of our slowdown, I think let's first achieve that. And then let's start focusing on growth going forward. Now, I think the government over the last 3-4 months certainly has tried to be more proactive about at least understanding what the issues are. The FM has done all her pre-budget meetings. The Prime Minister has done a lot of meetings with different parts of the industry. They've listened, they've heard. Hopefully the fact that there is a real problem out there is now well understood. And we can start now looking at the next step, which is trying to find solutions. And as I said, the solutions are not... There is no magic bullets. This is hard work that has to be done. For example, in our sector, you have to reform the distribution companies. You have to improve the efficiency of the distribution companies. You have to build out more generating capacity, right? You have to ensure the sanctity of contracts. Those are things that don't require any big overarching reform process. It's just that the ministry has to do its job in a efficient, thorough, effective manner. And the whole politico-bureaucratic nexus has to do its job. Fundamentally, that's all that needs to happen. And if it does happen in the right way across multiple sectors, and if you talk to my colleagues from industry, from other sectors, every sector will have 4 or 5 key issues that have to be addressed. There's again no rocket science involved here.
So a lot of the basic things need to be done first to fix a lot of the basic problems. Sumant, good speaking to you. Thank you so much. Well, there you have it, Sumant Sinha, somebody whose company has made a real effort and has made substantive gains as far as renewable power in this country, in our country, is concerned, and that's very much the focus this year. But also his views on what needs to be fixed urgently to get India's economic ship back on the right course.